elementary school. So glad you're here for astrology class number 4, the planets. So what we're going to do today is go over the planets and their glyphs and just a quick description of those. So hang on just a second and we'll drop down the camera. Okay, so we're going to start with, first off, with the 2 celestial bodies that aren't planets. First one is the moon, which is of course the closest to us. And it's a very simple one. It's just a nice little crescent there, so that's easy to see. The moon. And the moon is the fastest moving of our celestial bodies. It's also called they're also called luminaries, the moon and the sun. And as you know, the sun takes 1 full year to go all the way around the astrology wheel, and the moon only takes a month. So it spends about 2.5 days in a sign, whereas the sun spends about a month in a sign. And we'll be going over those things in more and more detail as we go along. Then the next closest to the sun is Mercury, which is basically the sign of Venus, 0, or the circle with the cross. And then these, I think of them as like little antenna sitting up there on his head, because Mercury is, of course, our communication planet. Remember, Mercury can go back and forth between Olympus, Earth, and even Hades. Nobody could go to Hades unless they were dead, but Mercury. Venus, which is the next closest planet to the sun. And that's our beautiful planet of love and romance. And one of the interesting things about Venus energy in astrology, not only is it love, but it's also money, which I have found very interesting when I first started studying. Next, we go past the Earth out to Mars, which of course is the masculine symbol. The circle with the arrow pointed up. I wonder what that's all about. And just to let you know, I think we did mention this before. Let me grab a little quick piece of paper here. But just remember the Earth, the glyph for the Earth, which we don't see because we're standing on the Earth, is a circle with a cross in it. So we're standing here in the center of that, so that's why it's the astrology wheel, basically. But that's why the Earth isn't in your chart when you get a chart someday. Okay, so these 5 planets are called the personal planets. And they make up our personality. Here's how we receive love. This is how we give love. This is how we get money. This is how we give our money away. Mercury, again, how we communicate. And how you communicate is just as important to any relationship as any kind of love or sexual attraction. The moon is feminine energy. Venus is feminine energy. The sun is masculine energy. Mars is masculine energy. And Mercury is kind of considered androgynous, sort of not really very, kind of both, or not really one way or the other. Okay, then when we get out past Mars, and it takes Venus Mercury is about a year also to go around the wheel. And Mercury never gets more than about 28 degrees away from the sun. Venus takes about a year and a half, I think if I remember correctly, 526 days for it to go around its orbit around the sun. And I think the furthest it gets away from the sun is about 38 degrees. So what you're going to find is whatever your sun sign is, let's just say you're a sun in Scorpio. Okay, if you're a sun in Scorpio, your Mercury and your Venus aren't going to be there. They may be in Sag, they may be in Libra before that, but they're not going to be any further away. Mars has about a 2-year orbit, And we'll talk about that more too as we go along. So about 2 months in a sign, but we've got retrogrades to talk about. We'll get to that later. Okay, then past Mars, we get into what's called the transpersonal planets. Jupiter, which is our biggest planet out there, and also is the Roman name for Zeus, the god, the king of the gods on Olympus. He's often depicted with a big white beard, and so he is Jupiter, the biggest, the most benevolent planet. When this planet's activated in your chart, good things usually happen. It's also called the Santa Claus of the zodiac, and it's about 12 years to go all the way around the wheel. So it spends about a year in each sign. So we're talking about more generational, not totally generational, but that's why they're called transpersonal, because they're getting out there. Now Saturn is that kind of like an H with a cross through it. And it's, of course, the planet with rings out there. Now its orbit is about 29 years, 28 to 30. So Saturn can spend about 2.5 years in a sign. And so it's kind of the taskmaster of the planets. Its father was Cronus, the god of time. Now Saturn, if you work hard, you will reap rewards. If you cut corners, sneak around, don't quite do it quite right on purpose, that kind of thing, then Saturn will come back to bite you. Okay, so that's the transpersonal planets. Then we get out to really what's called the generational planets. Now, all these planets you can see with the naked eye. The generational planets you can't see with the naked eye. You need a telescope or even something beyond that. So the first one is Uranus. And it looks kind of like Venus with a vertical and then a circle below. And I call it Uranus. Some people say Uranus, but that makes my inner 14-year-old boy start laughing. Now you'll see why it's a generational planet. It takes 84 years to get all the way around the astrological wheel, and spends about 7 years in each sign. So there you can see why it's called generational. A whole group of people will have the same Uranus sign. Neptune, its glyph looks like the trident. Now I always just show it like that, but to be technically correct, it should have these little arrows on there. The Neptune, the god of the ocean, the sea, brother to Jupiter. So Neptune, let's write that one down. Now Neptune has 164. It takes 164 years for it to get around the wheel. Oh, and one other thing I should also mention about these planets. Uranus was discovered in 1781, and just think about it, 1781, that was right when the United States was getting going. And Uranus is known for being expect the unexpected. It rules things like computers, electricity, just progressive ideas. And here we have the United States, which is a country unlike any other country before, that was built on ideas. And that's kind of what Uranus is too. Neptune was discovered in 1846, and I think it's interesting in the United States during this time is when we were in a war with Mexico over the border of Texas. And Neptune rules things like real wishy-washy things. Like, if you have problems with your Neptune, you may actually have problem with your own personal borders. So Neptune rules oil, gas, and in fact, Neptune is just a big blob of gas out there. So that kind of befitting Neptune there. Oh, and it also rules things like drugs, anything where you can get your consciousness altered and get kind of woo out there and such. Whereas Uranus, oh, another interesting thing about Uranus, all the planets whirl on their axis north to south, like you can think of the Earth with North Pole, South Pole. Uranus is the only planet that whirls on an east to west axis. Isn't that weird? So Uranus is, expect the unexpected. When it's activated in your chart, things can get a little interesting. Okay, and last but not least, Pluto, which was demoted to an asteroid or a dwarf planet. It's a circle with a cross and then this cup, and that's Pluto. And I should also say a more modern glyph that is used quite a bit is a circle, and then it kind of looks like a P, like that. You'll see that a lot on in computer charts and that sort of thing. Now, this one, boy, it takes like 240 something years to go all the way around the chart. So it can spend anywhere from 12 years. And the other thing too about Pluto that makes it kind of different, its orbit is more like an elliptic. It's an oval, whereas the rest of these are more circular. So it's going to spend like 12 years sometimes in a sign, and then other times it's going to spend like 30 years in a sign. So we'll go into that in more detail also. And it was discovered in 1930. So Pluto being the god of the underworld, Hades, that sort of thing. Just think about what was going on in the world in the 1930s with the Nazis coming up in Europe, and just how dark a time that must have been during when that was all happening. So some pretty kind of spooky stuff there. So Pluto is the planet of transformation. I really like thinking of Pluto too as the phoenix, where we crash and burn, and then we rebirth into something new and wonderful. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good introduction to the planets. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say right now. Let me just pause for a second. Okay, so here we are, and I'm going to hold this up real close so you can, if you want to make a screenshot of this, and so you can look at those symbols with the names and such and practice those. Because just like with your signs, I want you to start memorizing this stuff and getting these glyphs organized in your brain, because what's going to happen is, what we're going to go into the next class is, each one of these planets is going to rule a sign. So for example, I'll just start with the moon. It rules Cancer, the mother sign. So the moon is also a very motherly symbol in your chart. So we'll start connecting all these things, and then pretty soon you'll be able to understand, oh my goodness, I have a 5th house sun. What does that mean? Or I have a Venus in Aquarius in the 4th house. What does that mean? So that's what we're working towards. So that's your homework, is to just memorize these planets, and just remember which ones are the personal, transpersonal, and then generational or outer planets, sometimes they're called. And I think the next thing we'll do is we'll do a really quick quiz. I'm just going to say the names of the planet, and then you write the glyph down for yourself. So get ready to hit pause. Okay, Jupiter. Pause. Looks like kind of like a number 4. The sun. Easy schmeezy. Okay. Uranus. That's a tougher one. Okay. Venus. That's an easy one. Pluto. That's a little tougher. Saturn. Everybody's got to know what their Saturn is. Neptune. That wishy-washy planet. Okay. Mercury, our androgynous planet. Okay. All right. So thank you very much, everybody. Just remember, from there to here, from here to there, funny things are everywhere. And like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.